I'm Emily Landis Walker, and I've been in many different things, largely the International Monetary Fund, U.S. Treasury. I was first U.S. Director at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And my last capital raising, one of the guys said, there's a new technology out there. You've got to learn it. It's called blockchain. I saw it changing the international monetary system completely because of Bitcoin and the blockchain technology. Payments are faster, easier, and more accessible to everybody. I think all assets will eventually be tokenized and everything will operate on the blockchain technology. I think it'll probably be in the next 5 years. Max.
Whoa.
Now, it won't affect like everyday people, but international cross-border payment system will be fundamentally different. If the central banks don't control money creation, then it is a vastly different world. I don't think anybody really understands this well enough to even figure it out. I don't see DeFi being the future international monetary system. I just don't think that'll happen. In the Bitcoin world, nobody knows who owns what, or, money laundering, terrorist financing, all that kind of stuff is kind of a problem. I don't think the world is going to shift out of that quickly.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you are brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart, Bitcoin Dad.
And I'm number 40, Anna Bevan, Chief of Stuff.
Let's go. And we have got number 114, Emily, in the virtual studio here today. Someone with a lot of experience in the blockchain and crypto space, with a focus on business continuity, getting through unplanned obstacles like the power outage we experienced this morning when we were getting ready to tape. So
it's a little raw. It's still soon.
That's crazy.
Soon.
Yeah, we're getting a generator, Emily. But this particular individual has no Bitcoin. Lots of experience and expertise and exposure, but no Bitcoin. So let's start right there. Why don't you introduce yourself to our Satillionaires? And then I'd like to understand what's keeping you from stacking your first sats.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm Emily Landis Walker, and I'm kind of older, but I've been in many different things, largely the International Monetary Fund, U.S. Treasury. I was first U.S. Director at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in London, followed the wall. And then I went to Citibank, became Citigroup, went to New York, happened to be in the World Trade Center on September 11th. And following that, I was in Building 7, so I wasn't in the building. It fell down later in the day, but I was around the corner. And then I was on the 9/11 Commission. I wrote the U.S. National Standards for Emergency Preparedness for the private sector while I was on the commission. And that was because I interviewed all the companies, and they were like, how would we be prepared for something like this? Well, it doesn't matter if it's a fire, an earthquake, a hurricane, your own mess up, compliance screw up, electrical failure, supply chain mess up. You have to have a plan and you have to practice it. And I'll talk more about that later. Then after that, I went back to Citi after the 9/11 Commission. And of course, everything tanked and I got fired or had no job. But I had gone to Rome to set up Citigroup's partnership with the United Nations World Food Program after the tsunami in Banda Aceh. I went there to visit Banda Aceh, and I was flying in a military helicopter, Malaysian military helicopter, down the slopes of the water. And I said, why are you guys throwing away all the donations? And they said, well, because it's all the wrong stuff. I said, where's your list of the right stuff? Oh, we don't have one. So I created Citigroup's partnership with the World Food Program, went to Rome for a year, came back, and that's when I left Citi because there weren't any jobs. 2008, Then I went to Barclays and I was chief operating officer at Barclays Commercial and Retail Bank with Apollo City bankers who were over there. And we practiced a full building evacuation, but we got down to the bottom and our IDs did not let us out. They only let us in. So we would have all gone if we hadn't practiced it. That's a physical practicing, but it's a really big deal. And then after that, we got all fired from Barclays, and I've been on my own since 2009. I was in Iraq for a while, I was in Kuwait for 5 years, done capital raising. And my last capital raising, one of the guys on the group said, there's a new technology out there. You've got to learn it. It's called blockchain. So I read everything I could read. This is in end of 2018, right? I read everything, and I saw it changing the international monetary system completely. The one I'd studied in graduate school at Johns Hopkins University is going to be erased. How we did it, how we manage it, everything, because of Bitcoin and the blockchain technology coming in. So that's where I've been. And I've been in the space for 5 years or whatever it's been since 2019, early 2019. I started with a startup, and that's kind of what I've been doing.
That's wild.
That's a big old CV, as they say in the United Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
That's a big old resume.
I'm British and American now. I got my British passport because I worked there long enough. And my girls were both well educated and very excelled. Have theirs as well. So I'm British and American, but right now I'm in Florida and I live here and in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So I'm trying to learn Spanish. I speak French and Italian. Spanish is challenging because I understand it, but I can't retain it. I guess I'm too old to learn, but
And let's
This
take a
languages.
minute to point out that I saw that you studied French at America's oldest public university, aka Chapel Hill. Let's go. We're here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
I love Chapel Hill. I do.
Yeah.
I've got the Carolina blue on.
Yeah,
You
let's
do?
go. Shout out Chapel Hill, okay?
Let's do it.
Subscribe, smash the subscribe if you can rep America's oldest public university, okay? I need all my Tar Heels to come with me on this Bitcoin journey. Tell me something, Emily. Why do you think Bitcoin and the underlying blockchain that powers it is going to rewrite that traditional financial system that you spent years studying and working in?
Yes, it will, because payments are faster, easier, and more accessible to everybody. And because the Trump administration has codified the rules and the SEC is now allowing more stuff to happen, ETFs are out there and everything else, I think all assets will eventually be tokenized and everything will operate on the blockchain technology. And that is going to fundamentally alter the rule of money. How is money created? How is it measured? How is it transferred? Everything will change. And I think it's happening way quicker than we initially thought it would, but it is happening and it will happen.
Do you think it's happening faster internationally than it is stateside?
I don't, because it's not well organized and the world is in dollars, not any other currency. So not really, but I think the stablecoin piece is going to be interesting because that is probably, it's not for volatile investments. This is for the international payment system. How do you transfer money globally? Now, most Americans could care less. They're not transferring anything anywhere. It's the corporate sector, banks, etc., but not people. People don't. But I think it will fundamentally alter the work of the International Monetary Fund, what they're working on, how they're working on it. And DeFi is an issue because DeFi, you can't go to the head guy and say you've got to have something, because there isn't a head guy. And that's where Bitcoin is interesting, because it's DeFi, completely DeFi. I don't think in the end, blockchain that is completely DeFi will be the international payment system, because it just won't happen. But not because it's not good, but because you got to have somebody in charge of the system, or whatever part of the system it's in. Otherwise, who do you blame? How do you control it? Who do you monitor, etc.?
Well, let's dig into that for a second. And there's actually a lot that you just mentioned that I want to help unpack for our satillionaires out there in the audience. They're like, well, what is a stable coin? What is DeFi? What is all this business, right?
Totally.
But the thing that's coming to my mind right, immediately is the potentially challenging that, right? Because when I'm thinking about Bitcoin, I'm thinking about, gold, for example, is not it's not something that there's no head guy of gold, but gold did kind of get centralized into these pockets where someone did control that gold, like in a centralized bank or in a vault or something. Do you think that there's a way for Bitcoin to kind of create decentralized pockets of control where, maybe El Salvador's like, hey, we've got, 500 Bitcoin in our wallet, and we control the keys to that Bitcoin, even though there is no head guy? Or is the only option for, a remaking of the financial world to be on a blockchain that is somehow controlled centrally by somebody?
That is a great question. I really can't give you the answer. I think it could go the way you said, but I doubt it will, because I think it's too vastly changing of the current system to do what you said with Bitcoin being, and Bitcoin is a fixed asset. There's a fixed number of Bitcoins that are going to be made, right?
Right.
So there isn't a fixed amount of gold. It comes out of the ground, in many different locations. So I don't think it's a direct comparison in that regard, but I don't know. But I think it's so complex. If you read the Bank for International Settlements paper on all of this, it's so complex. I couldn't even get it. It really is a challenging story, but the banks are out there now trying to do this. Citi, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, etc. They're trying to hold tokenized assets, have their own coins. I don't know if they're building their own blockchains or they're taking Solana, or what they're using for their base, but they're going to be privately controlled, but they all have to talk to each other. So there's interoperability between the different blockchains. That's going to be an issue that everybody will have to do. And if there are failures in the blockchains themselves, that will be a huge issue that'll have to be solved. I don't know, but that's where the business maturity, the blockchain maturity model comes in. If that model from the Government Blockchain Association can assess the ability of these blockchain solutions to actually continue to operate, that will be very helpful. But it's based on international standards and all sorts of stuff. And there are people who are trained to be able to do the assessments. But so I think it's all work in progress, but I think it will happen, and it's moving very quickly. Very quickly.
That's a lot. Whoa.
I mean, the picture that I feel you're painting, Emily, is one of guaranteed change. The traditional financial system is fully going through they're going down a one-way street toward digitization, tokenization, and I don't know, like adopting this newer form of technology that many of us in Bitcoin have adopted long before the banks did, right?
Yes.
And it's unclear what role Bitcoin will play in all of this. I mean, it's clear to me Bitcoin's going to win, but you do have this situation where, yeah, like if I'm JP Morgan, well, I'm going to make my own token. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
Citibank, I'm going to make my own token. If I'm First Citizens Bank, I'm going to wait for more banks to collapse. I'm going to gobble them up because that's been working for me for years.
Totally.
And then I'm going to make my First Citizens token. Like, and then to your point, it's almost like they're looking at, well, I guess let me back up for a second. With the advent of the internet, Emily, we basically had this long scale transition from information being, siloed in different areas to being all online to being so much more information than anyone could hope to consume in a lifetime.
Yes.
And now it feels, and it's almost like a layer of digitization hit the world of information. And we also have like augmented reality in our smartphone video games now, or you wear some sunglasses that kind of put that layer onto the earth. And it almost feels like you're describing like it's like a layer of augmentation on top of the financial system where they're like, you know what? We're behind the curve when it comes to the money of the future, but we're going to try to catch up. And it's almost like the message you're giving us is, number one, it's happening. Number two, it's happening faster than you think. Number three, there are some nascent models out there that are attempting to define and describe which elements of this brave new world you can trust.
Yes, all of that is true, in my opinion. Yes.
So, how quickly do you think we are going to move into a world where decentralized currency like Bitcoin, along with tokenization, cryptocurrencies, centralized blockchains, like how quickly are we going to go to where that's just the norm? It's no longer a transition, it's done.
I think it'll probably be in the next 5 years max.
Whoa.
Wow, that is, I thought I was like, okay, 10. I thought she was going to say 10.
I was thinking 10 to 30 years. You're saying 5.
That's what I'm seeing because the banks, because of the regulatory changes with the Trump administration, everybody is now into it. And they're not going to sit around and wait. Now, it won't affect like everyday people, but international cross-border payment system will be fundamentally different.
Okay. So almost like how the banks operate globally each day by 2030 is going to be, done with their traditional financial system, maybe even the SWIFT network. See ya. Now each bank has its own private blockchain, its own private token.
Yes, but they will have to be connected because right now, when you make an international payment, it goes through this correspondent bank system that takes forever, costs money. And there's going to be a lot of pushback from the correspondent banks because that's how they make their living. But if the blockchains will have to speak, they will have to be interconnected. And the token bit, I'm not really sure, other than somebody at Citi puts money in their account, corporate account, transfers it over, it goes to the token, comes out the other end. The token comes out, gets transferred into the local currency, pays the bill, I guess is how it works.
When do you think normal people are going to see this and start having to operate like this?
Unless you're in a country where the currency is horrible or something. I don't think in America normal people will have anything to do with this, but maybe they will because maybe assets will be tokenized on the stock exchange or I don't know, but how that'll exactly work, it's so challenging for me to even get it, let alone explain it. But when I was reading the BIS's latest paper, it's like pages thick. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really going to happen. And it's a fundamentally different international system because central banks are going to have to be really careful. Otherwise, they're not going to control the money.
Ooh.
And That is really an important thing because if the central banks don't control money creation, then it is a vastly different world.
Is it a vastly better world?
I don't know.
What scenario would come to pass where central banks of these 200 plus nation states we've got running around out there today lose control of money creation?
That will be a huge change in the economies because monetary supply is part of the overall economic fundamentals of a country's economy. So if you have multiple sources of money supply, that's inflationary, could be, who knows? But it's an economic issue. It will be the GDP will change, everything will change in terms of how we understand economics of a country.
But in this scenario, Emily, who would these central banks lose control of their money to? Who becomes the controller in that scenario?
The people who are creating the tokens, the crypto, I guess. And potentially the stablecoin people, I don't know. But it will be if additional money is created outside of the central bank. The banks obviously give money away because they give you a loan and it's not based on real cash, it's a credit. But that is monetary creation that goes into the money supply theoretically, but it isn't real money. It's not printed, and it gets mushed with the central bank reserves. It gets, I don't know what you call it. At the end of the day, it's wipes out at the central bank reserve situation. But so that is monetary creation that goes into the money supply, the M of the country. But in the case of crypto, I don't know. Maybe it'll be the same thing. Maybe the central bank gets their act together and understands all this and can actually monitor it and reserve against it. It can all be part of their story, but I don't know. I don't think anybody really understands this well enough to even figure it out because it's really complex.
I feel like we're playing in this, like, the whole time you've been talking, I've been thinking of that movie with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried, and they like have time
Yeah.
on their
And he's like
wrist.
gambling away down to like the last second, and then he like gets a bunch.
Yes. And so I feel like you're describing that happening in 5 years. And I keep going back to the rating system of, like, you've got all of these banks that are creating their own stable coins. You've got like their own blockchains. And like, I think the powerful person in the room is whoever decides what's good or bad.
Yes.
Like that rating system of those blockchains of, like, this one is like, this one's a 10, this one's a 9, this one's a 3.
And that's why this blockchain maturity model of the Government Blockchain Association is so critical, because if it actually can determine whether it's 5 levels of reliability and dependability, level 1 initial, level 2 documented, level 3 validated, level 4 production, level 5 optimizing. These are the states that they have of blockchain solutions. And that's what they're measuring. And I mean, this is going to be really critical because you want these things to, well, AML and KYC are going to be really a challenge because anti-money laundering and know your customer, which I created when I was at the Treasury Department with Secretary Brady. We started the whole AML KYC thing. That is really a challenge in the blockchain world, especially in the Bitcoin world, because nobody knows who owns what or whatever, because it's an IP address or it's your wallet or whatever. There's no name. They haven't looked at, money laundering, terrorist financing, all that kind of stuff is kind of a problem. But so I'm not sure how they're going to solve all this, but
yeah. Well, hang on real quick. You just said that you specifically were the person who got anti-money laundering and know your customer, structures in place for the government, to require Bitcoin.
Staff to Secretary Nicholas F. Brady when we did that.
Wowie, freaking zowie. Now, is that for both? Was that both for the dollar system and for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, or just for Bitcoin?
No, that was just for the dollar system. This is in 1988 or something.
1988. You were part of the team that put America's initial AML and KYC protocols into place, correct?
Yes.
Holy freaking smokes.
Yep. And
unbelievable.
No, I know. I'm old. That's the reason. Okay.
We're not trying to harp on that. We're trying to harp on the fact that I just feel like we lucked into someone who played a non-zero role in American economics over the past several decades. And, on this show, Emily, anyone is allowed to come on this show the same way anyone is allowed to buy Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But occasionally someone comes on this show and we're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just found a valuable collection at somebody's yard sale. And I'm like, how is this even here?
I don't know how I'm here either, but I am, and it's great. I was, whatever. But that AML and KYC stuff is very important.
Yeah. And
it's a challenge in the blockchain space. Yes. Particularly in Bitcoin, but elsewhere as well.
So first of all, the Government Blockchain Association, I think you mentioned, are they a government entity or are they not a government entity?
They're not a government entity, but they call themselves the Government Blockchain Association, and they have private members. Anybody can join.
Is that Dan's
That's Dan.
thing? Okay.
Yeah, that's Dan.
All right. So have they, it's just funny that Anna Bevan, we work with a fellow named Dan Spuller, who is with the Blockchain Association, and we're going to be in DC soon to see him. But
I know Dan. He used to work somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. He's been around the blockchain crypto space for a decent amount of time. I'm not going to say a long time because it's not really been around for a while.
Right.
But he's a decent amount of time.
Small world.
Very small.
Chamber of Digital Commerce. That's where I met him, at the Chamber of Digital Commerce. That's where I know him from. Yeah.
Do you know if they've applied this maturity model to Bitcoin? And if so, the rating that Bitcoin's blockchain got?
No, I don't. I really don't. But we can ask. I don't have a clue.
On a scale of 1 to 5, I bet Bitcoin got a 9 out of 5 because Bitcoin is rock solid. And this is the question I have for you. If you have spent decades in economics and monetary policy and, there's time in London where you were doing some professional activities that sounded impressive, and I can't remember what they are right now. And you've done blockchains, you've studied all this. How can you not have reached a point where you say to yourself, man, Bitcoin is the decentralized money protocol of the future. This is the electronic peer-to-peer cash. The blockchain is solid. The network support is solid. I'm going to get some Bitcoin. How do you not have your first act?
Had I bought it back in the day, it would have been a good idea. But at that point in time, I didn't think DeFi was going to make it. And I still don't really, because I don't think peer-to-peer works because of the current system, and it'll be really challenging to get it. Not the Bitcoin blockchain is great because that's what started the whole thing, right? That's what created all the other stuff. But the decentralized bit, I think that's going to be a challenge for the future, for the marketplace itself.
Okay. So you're convinced that the future of the traditional financial system includes this inevitable march toward digitization, tokenization, and blockchains. But for you, that's centralized finance. And you know that even though it's going through a transformation, it's going to be still here. in the years to come. But the question for you is, does decentralized finance work? Does Bitcoin work? Because there is no CEO of Bitcoin. That's the thing holding you back.
And it does work, kind of, but it won't work to replace the full system, I don't think.
Okay.
The blockchain works, it's secure, but you can't do AML, KYC. There's no one to call if it doesn't work, and I don't see it. But I may be wrong, you never know, but I don't see DeFi being the future international monetary system. I just don't think that'll happen. It could maybe in 20 or 30 years, but it's not going to be in the next 5.
Okay.
It'll be centralized for sure. But Bitcoin's importance was the fact that that is the first blockchain solution, right?
So it sounds like you're struggling to place your trust in computers only. There needs to be a human being behind the computers.
Responsible person. Yeah. Responsible company, responsible entity. I don't think the world is going to shift out of that quickly. It just, it's too challenging for the world to deal with. But that would be my opinion. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't know. But I just don't see it happening that quickly.
I think like the digitization and modernization of the banking system in 5 years or less sounds like a huge leap forward.
Definitely.
That might not mean hyper Bitcoinization just yet, but what, with Bitcoin growing and growing and growing and proving itself over and over 10 minutes at a time that it does work, what role do you see it playing in the future?
Bitcoin itself, I don't know. It'll be an investment opportunity probably. But the blockchain solution under it is the fundamental blockchain solution that everybody's using, right? So, in terms of Bitcoin itself, I don't know because it's a fixed supply. How much is going to be created? The mining stuff, never really. What are the miners doing in Bitcoin anyway? I mean, they're verifying what? That you're buying a Bitcoin, you're moving your money into where? I mean, who gets the money when you buy a Bitcoin? The exchange?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we can survey that for you here, Emily. With Bitcoin, it is a decentralized protocol. So it operates through a system of rules. And those rules include the limited supply of 21 million Bitcoin. It includes the blockchain mechanic, which is, updated every 10 minutes with a new block of transactions.
Right.
It is supported by the people who use Bitcoin, like moi and Anna Bevan, right? Because we pay fees to use the network, kind of like taking a car on a toll road. It's supported by the nodes, which are basically computers like the one you're on right now. And you just run a program in the background that verifies all the transactions. It's not the miners that verify the transactions, it's the nodes. And what they're doing is they're looking back to the beginning of all Bitcoin time, and they're tracing each individual Bitcoin as it's being sent across the network to make sure that I'm not trying to cheat by sending you 5 Bitcoin and also sending the same 5 Bitcoin to Anna Bevan. The nodes will say, no, you only have 5 Bitcoin, so you can only send it to either Emily or Anna Bevan, right?
Right. But the benefit of that transaction in other blockchains will be I gave you my stuff. The smart contract, which is another issue, says I received it and the transaction occurs. To me, that's a better use of blockchain than just verifying that you bought some you're transferring Bitcoin somewhere. This is real stuff that's happening. That is a much better use of blockchain solutions than just verifying that you are transferring your Bitcoin to her.
So you feel like blockchain technology is better put toward contracts and the verifying of real world activities versus, hey, this blockchain is really good at tracking these 21 million units of money, and we're going to use that because we don't trust the government to do a good job managing its money supply. So we're gonna flip over to this decentralized money instead.
Yeah, basically. I don't see that people really think that way, but if you put it that way, you could put it that way, but I don't see it really because
Fascinating.
it's not how people think. But yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's not what people are doing really. But
Would you say that blockchains are an excellent way for people to safeguard information and get down to the truth of what has happened?
I don't know, but potentially, but that depends because if smart contracts are coded, right? They're codes. Who knows what those codes are actually doing? If you're not the coder, do you really know what they're doing? No, you have no idea. That's to me a really scary piece of the process because, you know, I'm selling $100 million worth of stuff to another country. They receive it, they click, and the smart contract already automatically moves the currency to me across the blockchain. How does how do I know what that smart contract really says? How do I trust that it says what I think it's supposed to say? How do we know? We don't.
Well, I think if you're working with Bitcoin's code, for example, which is open source, then ostensibly you could inspect it yourself if you were smart enough to even know what you were looking at.
Right.
And
And that's what I'm saying. Nobody is smart enough to know what they're looking at anywhere, really. How many people can actually read code in the world?
I think a pretty good amount.
Like a decent amount now. I mean,
yeah. I'm definitely relying on people who I feel are super smart, who have reviewed the code, who say, hey, this checks out. Kind of the same way I rely on my mechanic to say, yeah, your car's okay, dude. I don't totally get my car.
I know, I understand that, but that's the weakness of the blockchain, I think, because you have to believe the code is valid.
What about the weakness of the traditional financial system? Is that weaker than the weakness of blockchain, or is it not as weak
No,
as the weakness of blockchain?
not as weak because it's humans and they're talking in their words and we all get it. But it is slower, it's less efficient, it's more time consuming, it's more costly, it's got a lot of problems, but it's not trust because you can talk and you can read it and you can know it. But like people like me, I can't read code. I have no idea
Yeah.
if it's valid or not. Hence, the blockchain maturity model assessment could be valuable in that respect for banks and anybody to see if their stuff is really up to snuff. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing I can tell you is that this subject, the future of finance, Bitcoin, it is there's so much to it that we'll never fit all of it into a single chat about that. We do ask each of our guests if they'd be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. Would you be willing to come back on in 9 months to do this again with us?
Sure, happy to.
Okay, good.
Great.
Because I think I want to unpack even more with Emily and keep going deeper. I want to see 9 months from now whether
If we
we're on
can
track for her
anyway.
5-year transformation. You know what I mean?
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So
All right.
so stay tuned. Smash the subscribe if you can't believe the conversation we just had with Emily, and let's recap that conversation. Right. So Emily has got a very impressive body of work, right? I mean, spending time in America, in the United Kingdom. There was somewhere else you went as well. Was it Italy? Somewhere? I can't.
Kuwait, Singapore. I've lived in all those places. Italy. I've lived a lot of places. Yes.
Yeah, and kind of like really operating at the highest levels of finance, both in it seemed like the public sector, setting that KYC AML business from the 80s was out of control. And some private sector stuff as well. But what was really for me, what kind of like was the whoa moment for me with your conversation, Emily, was this idea that the banking system, the traditional financial system, these new technologies are going to erase. I think that was the verb you used. It's going to erase the system that you studied while you were at university. It's going to replace it with decentralized blockchains, maybe centralized blockchains, if that's even a thing. I'm not sure. Like basically like centralized finance, decentralized finance, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, tokenization, and within 5 years, the underlying financial system of the world is going to be communicating with one another through these interoperable blockchains with potentially associated tokens, which is just wild. Just wild.
It may take longer, but the stuff I've been reading lately looks like it won't really, but we'll see.
Yeah, and we do have some healthy skepticism on Emily's side. 100%, I know Bitcoin is the greatest of all time and it's going to remake the world in its own image. Emily's like, I'm not so sure, right? Like,
well, she did say that the value of blockchain the value of Bitcoin is the blockchain being like the parent to all others.
Yes,
that is.
And I do think there's a debate out there, which is like, well, okay, is the best use of a blockchain to safeguard units of information that we use as money?
Yeah.
Or is it to power things like smart contracts and other things that can kind of automatically help the world move along in a way where I could say, instead of today's world where someone says, hey, there's a cloud on the title of your house because this guy also has like a branching claim on it. I can say, it's right here on the blockchain. The deed of this home came to me.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
But to get all of the records changed to blockchain in town after town after town, I think that's a real challenge.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be fabulous if your home ownership was on the blockchain permanently. Oh my gosh, that would be the best thing that could ever happen, really.
We're not scared, right? Because somebody who figured out electricity was like, gosh, we got to find a way to bring electricity to every single home. We did it. It took some time. It's a lot of work.
It is. And there'll be a lot of people whose jobs will go away because all those people with all those papers in the county office, when you put your title in and all that stuff, how is that gonna, I don't know, but.
Well, tune in 9 months from now. We'll keep unpacking it. Abes, why don't we jump into our sponsorship segment here?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Do I leave? I leave? Or
No, you're still here. You're still here.
You're here with us.
We have an offer to make you.
Yeah.
Which I think I know which way it's going to go, but
this is our title sponsor, Ithaca Hummus, and you've selected the classic flavor when you signed up. So we're gonna do this virtually.
Yep. I'll serve as your taste buds here, Emily.
Correct.
I'm going to get a fat glob of this classic hummus.
Yum. Delicious. I haven't eaten anything today, so I'm starving.
This is also the first thing I've had today.
Oh, boy.
I know.
All right, here we go. Mm-hmm. So good. Creamy. Flavorful.
Great.
So have you heard of Ithaca Hummus? Ithaca Hummus has been around 13 years?
Something like that, yeah.
13 years. And they have the absolute best hummus on the market.
It's so tasty.
They use like fresh ingredients every single time they make their hummus. And so sometimes when you get the different flavors, you'll have different there'll be a slight variance in the hummus because they're fresh ingredients. And this classic hummus was actually not the first hummus that Chris made. Chris, the CEO and founder of Ithaca Hummus. I think it was the fourth hummus he made.
Dang.
Yeah. The first one he made was lemon garlic.
Yeah. And down there in Florida, I think Whole Foods, Publix.
Yeah, I think we might have some in the refrigerator. I could go look, but I can't. We have hummus in there. I don't know what brand we got it at Whole Foods. So
okay,
maybe
well,
we got it there. Wow.
Go check your fridge, and if it is Ithaca Hummus, chomp down on some of it. Come back to the comment section of this video. Let us know what you thought.
Okay.
So now we are going to make you an offer. Okay, in exchange for your time. This is our gift to you. So, Ames, if you'll grab old Ulysses back there. All right. So, right now, we've got a $50 bill here for you. It's part of that monetary system that you told us is going to be totally changed here in 5 years. So, I mean.
No, dollars will still work in local environments. It's just the international piece that'll change, but yeah.
So we're going to offer you $50 in exchange for your time because, in Bitcoin, we believe in exchanging value for value. And you brought a lot of value to this conversation with your experience and your perspective on how quickly things are changing in the world around us. So we're going to offer you $50 or $50 worth of Bitcoin. And at today's exchange rate, you can get about 900 some odd Satoshis for $1. Okay, because each Bitcoin breaks down into 100 million sats. You might have heard me say that at the beginning of the show. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of $1. So we're going to offer you 44,750 sats or $50.
I guess I'll take the Bitcoin, but I got to get my wallet, right?
Sweet. Well, number one,
excellent.
Let's just high five because let's go. I was fully expecting you to be our 10th guest to take the cash today because of some of your reservations. Yeah. But I like that you're keeping an open mind and really it's free. So who cares if it, goes to zero. Right. So,
okay. So
you will get an email from us tomorrow, Emily, that says go right through these steps to get a wallet on your smartphone. And then we'll send you these Satoshis and you're going to love seeing that number jump into your little app. Okay. And it's dead simple. We use Blue Wallet. That's what we recommend. And that'll be in the email too. You don't even need to write that down. My mom, who is 74, she followed the email. She got the wallet. She got the sats. It's as easy as downloading an app and setting it up. Okay.
Yeah, I get it. I've had a wallet before, but it had the ICO coins that tanked, but it was with, I can't remember who it was with, but anyway, we'll figure it out. But
and we're going to unpack the ICO story when you come back on.
That deserves its own moment.
So, Satillionaires, this is the part of the show where we ask you for your value in exchange for ours. If you enjoyed Emily's story, smash the subscribe button on YouTube. When we reach 10,000 subscribers, we will choose one from among you and drop 2 million Satoshis on your head. Not 45,000, 2 million. We also want you to join us each and every weekday, Monday through Thursday at 11 a.m. We put out episodes like this, okay? So come on back for those premieres. Fridays at 11 a.m., we switch it up a little bit. That's our live game show, TikTok Next Block, the game where you play for 1 million sats.
1 million sats.
Bitcoin and Sat Chats trivia. It's a ton of fun.
So fun.
The chat is lively. Be there or be square. And let's be honest, Friday, 11 a.m., you're like you're cleaning out your email inbox. You're planning your calendar for the next week. Like you can put us on your second screen.
You think it's basically Saturday by 11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting ready for lunch. Put us on your second monitor while you're cruising, okay? And come hang out with us, please. You can also do like Emily did. Go to satchats.com to sign up and grab your slot in the studio today. You can tell us your Bitcoin story, or you can get your Bitcoin questions answered. We're here for you. All right? If you want to help us mint the next brand new Bitcoiner, you can send us some of your Bitcoin, right? Satchats@getalby.com if you're on the Lightning Network. Our on-chain address is also in the show notes. If you want to sponsor, just like here we have Ithaca Hummus and the Pearl Collective over there with our Sat Chats moments, you can email us, show@satchats.com, and we will talk to you directly. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Oh, and by the way, Emily, do you want to send our audience, our Satillionaires, anywhere to interact with you? LinkedIn, social media, website, anything like that?
Yeah, they can do LinkedIn, Emily, or they can email me, emily@emilylandiswalker.com, or my LinkedIn profile, Landis & Co. Follow it. And I'm also on LinkedIn. Any of the above is fine.
Okay. And we'll put all that in the show notes with the information for you all to support and sponsor our show. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, Sat Chats is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice. Also, our guests' views are their own. We'll see you on the next one.